Let me start with a question that's already exploding in our comment section. How much corruption will it take before Washington finally stops pretending Ukraine is a spotless democracy? Tell me in the comments right now, should the US freeze all aid until a full investigation happens? Yes or no? And if you're new here, hit subscribe, because stories like this don't get a lot of coverage on mainstream feeds, and it's your support that enables us to keep up the focus. All right, let's talk. Because when a sitting US Senator, Rand Paul, openly accuses President Donald Trump of staying silent on a $100 million Ukrainian corruption scandal, something is shifting. And when that scandal involves Timur, the man Ukrainian insiders literally call Zelensky's wallet, the whole narrative of the last 4 years starts cracking like old paint. This isn't some blog chatter. This isn't a Telegram rumor. This is Ukraine's own anti-corruption agencies, NABU and SAPO, dropping receipts, paper trails, hard ones, the kind with wiretaps, code names, offshore accounts, and ministers sprinting for the exit. Now, the whole thing started 2 days ago when Ukraine's anti-corruption operatives raided a luxury apartment in Kyiv. But the star of the show, Timur, was already gone. Slipped out of the country hours earlier, like he knew exactly when that knock was coming. And honestly, he probably did. Because this wasn't just some contractor. This was the co-owner of Zelensky's studio, long-time business partner, political fixer, funder, confidant, the guy who hosted Zelensky's birthday parties, the guy who moved from producing shows to producing military drones and long-range missiles, a loyal friend who, if NABU is right, also became a loyal collector of kickbacks. So what did investigators find? Stacks of cash, fresh, crisp, factory new. $1.6 million packed into bags like your weekly grocery shopping. A golden toilet bowl, because in Ukraine, elite corruption always comes with a side of black humor, if you know what I'm saying. And more than 1,000 hours of wiretapped conversations filled with laughter, profanity, and discussions about which government official gets placed where and how to split wartime contracts. Think about that. Ukrainians are freezing in the dark, and politicians are allegedly discussing which offshore account the next payout goes into. And here's the part Washington doesn't want to talk about. This scandal blew up just months after Zelensky tried and failed to take control of NABU and SAPO. He tried to strip them of independence. He tried to fold them under his loyal prosecutor general. He claimed Russian infiltration, produced zero proof. But the timing, right? The timing. Now it looks like he might have been trying to shut down the very investigation that's eating his presidency alive. Even loyal Ukrainians couldn't take it anymore. You saw it, right? The largest anti-government protests since the war began. So, Western sponsors stepped in, EU officials publicly scolded Zelensky, and the Ukrainian streets boiled over. Now, Zelensky backed down, but NABU didn't forget. Fast forward to today. Operation Midas, they called it. And yes, everything it touched turned into political gold for everyone except Zelensky. 2 ministers have resigned. 5 people have been arrested. Mindich is on the run, allegedly hiding in Israel. And NABU hints, very carefully, that some recordings may feature very high-ranking voices. We all know which voice they're talking about. And what about voices in the US? The biggest backers of Ukraine's war effort? Rand Paul is out here saying Trump silent on $100 million Ukraine corruption scandal, and that silence is now part of this story. Because Trump, despite calling Zelensky the greatest salesman on earth, isn't commenting now. And the EU is furious. demanding external oversight of Ukraine's entire government, because that's always been the deal. Money for control. Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz says Zelensky must press forward with reforms. EU Chief Kaja Kallas calls the scandal extremely unfortunate. Allow me to translate that for you. We knew corruption existed. We didn't know it was this big, this sloppy, and this close to the president. And you know what the most fascinating part is? A silent, slow, but powerful anti-Zelensky coalition is forming inside Ukraine. Western-backed NGOs, opposition parties, anti-corruption agencies, foreign advisors, even elements inside Zelensky's own government. And what's their goal? Not to replace him with another comedian president, but to create a national unity government. A polite phrase for sidelining the president while keeping the optics clean for the West. And the worst part, for Zelensky and for Ukraine, winter is coming. Energy infrastructure is Ukraine's weak point. And now there's a giant corruption scandal centered around the very system that keeps the country alive during winter, Energoatom. Seriously, you cannot make this stuff up. Remember when Zelensky once played a heroic teacher cleaning up corruption? 6 years later, his real-life presidency looks like a tragic sequel. Same oligarchs, same schemes, just way more cash. And now there's the question no one wanted to ask, but everyone already is. How long can Zelensky hang on? How long before Western media, The Spectator, The New York Times, Politico, The Wall Street Journal, stop protecting Zelensky and start writing the obituaries of his political career? How long before the next wiretap drops? The next arrest? The next resignation? How long till the American establishment finally weighs it up and decides the cost of supporting Zelensky is getting too high? And one last thing, that golden toilet, the same symbol that brought down Yanukovych in 2014. It's back. Ukraine's revolution against corruption has looped right back to where it started. So here's my closing question, and give me some real answers in the comment. Should the US suspend all Ukraine aid until this case is fully investigated? And should Zelensky be made to testify publicly? Tell me below. And subscribe if you want the next chapter, because you and I both know there's definitely going to be a next chapter. NABU's teaser wasn't for us. It was for someone sitting in a presidential office, staring at a phone, wondering which recording drops next. And when it does, you'll hear it here first.